Thank you very much, Iman Iragabira Shaka. And before the break, of course, we were talking, Augustin, about, you were trying to give reasons really as to who did this or who did that, but I think...
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Right.
I was going to say, since we're going to discuss where we go from here, I was just going to close that chapter about who won or who didn't win by quoting Zuma, President Jacob Zuma of South Africa, who recently was quoted as saying, what happened in Ivory Coast was not an election, but if you think it was an election, then President Gbagbo won. Whatever happened, happened. The different institutions have taken position, and now we have to see what happens. But what happened depends very much on what underlined this conflict.
Was that South African President Jacob Zuma's personal opinion, or was it a contribution that he made as a member of the AU 5-member panel of heads of state?
Oh, I think this was in a conversation, and the panel's recommendation is contained in a communique, and people are not quoted separately in that communique.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Now, what about the issue of who is who here, really? Because we can't go on having two presidents representing one country. Yeah. There's some people who wonder, for example, whether, in fact, we should continue referring to you know, the incumbent Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo as President Gbagbo. Because, in fact, they say perhaps we should be referring to him as a former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo.
Well, what you're saying is very interesting. In the context of what's happening today, you have, starting in Tunisia, people rise up and say, enough is enough. That president goes. Then in Egypt, you have the same thing happening. People rise up and Hosni Mubarak has to go. In Ivory Coast, we have a situation where President Gbagbo is considered the loser. Ouattara is considered the winner.
By who?
By the international community, which, if you want to identify, in this case means France, the UN, the United States, and the European Union.
What about the African Union?
The African Union, under tremendous pressure, has vacillated. If you remember, at the beginning, they said, Ouattara's the winner, and if President Gbagbo doesn't want to leave, we'll go there militarily and remove him.
What about ECOWAS?
But since then, ECOWAS has done the same thing. In fact, it started with ECOWAS and then went down to the African Union.
What about the majority of the people of the Ivory Coast, at least according to the Electoral Commission of your country?
The Electoral Commission of Ivory Coast is an administrative body that organizes the election. The last word on who won and who lost belongs to the Constitutional Council, which is the equivalent of the Supreme Court in this country. And that's a body that declared President Gbagbo the winner. Its decision, like the U.S. Supreme Court, is without appeal. They have the last word, period.